One of the most talked about talk shows on television, The View is known for its intense on-air arguments and behind-the-scenes drama. But what does it actually look like when the cameras stop rolling? We're delving deeply into the untold stories and shocking truths that never made it to air. So get ready as former co-host Candace Cameron Beard just revealed how the producers convinced her to join and what actually transpired behind closed doors.
I'm not wrong because I don't know too much about The View, but I've seen definitely like some controversial clips online or on YouTube. That's a primarily liberal audience.
Oh yeah, it is. That whole show started and it's called The View because it's supposed to be 5 different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much one viewpoint.
That's what I picked up.
Yeah, there's usually like one token conservative. So I was that conservative for 2 years on this show.
But going into it, you knew that you were going to be that kind of token target.
Yeah.
That is precisely the point. The View likes to promote itself as a place where all opinions are welcome. But let's face it, it's about as balanced as a seesaw, with a sumo wrestler firmly on one side. They do parade around a token conservative, but that role frequently feels more symbolic than genuine the moment that person breaks the liberal rhythm of the show and offers an opinion that deviates from it. They are met with interruptions, contemptuous eye rolls, or outright derision. It's not even hidden. It's practically a part of the show's identity nowadays. Forget about it. After the election, there was even talk that the producers were thinking about hiring a pro-Trump voice. But let's face it, who in their right mind would accept that position under such a hostile atmosphere? That raises the question of why Candace Cameron Bure agreed to join the chaos in the first place, given all the tension and political backlash.
What made you accept that job?
Allie, I tried to turn that job down.
Are you serious?
Multiple times.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I know they talk so much politics on the show, and I'm not comfortable with that, so no. And then they came back and they were like, we're actually switching it. It's going to be more pop culture, more evergreen topics. We're not really going to talk about politics that much. And it was like, okay. And then I was like, well, I live in LA and I'm not moving to New York, so no. And they said, we'll fly you back and forth every week. We'll pay for the tickets every week.
The biggest open door.
Like everything I tried to say no to, they had a solution for it. That's when I eventually was like, okay, let's try this. And I said yes. And it was so scary to say yes. And it was a really hard show to do. But I'm really grateful that I did it. It grew me a lot.
Returning to 2015, The View wasn't exactly doing well at the moment. Its ratings were declining, and it was losing 9% of its female viewers, while the talk was dominating the daytime TV market. It was obvious that something needed to change. At this point, Donald Trump was making headlines and had just started his presidential campaign. The producers took a drastic shift after spotting an opening. The lighthearted conversation of the day gave way to heated political altercations and buzzworthy events. The show was immediately buzzing again when the co-hosts strongly criticized Trump. Viewers tuned in more when it became more contentious, and the ratings immediately recovered. This was a bold, strategic, and unquestionably successful new direction. The recipe is outrage sells. But the goal was to create dramatic, TV-worthy conflicts, not just policy arguments. They required a counterpoint player to accomplish that. The conservative token co-host, who was brought in for blowback rather than balance, now enters the scene. That was a role designed for confrontation, not merely harsh. Putting herself right in the center of this strategy, Candace explained in a different interview how producers helped her stir things up just enough to achieve viral moments.
Like the rebuttal. I didn't like to have to argue back, because I just wanted to share my point of view and then listen to yours and listen to yours and listen to yours. And they were like, no, but you got to keep getting in. You got to keep, if someone doesn't agree with you, you got to go back. And I was like, but I don't like to argue. I just want to share. I want to share, present my opinion, and then leave it alone and take it for what it's worth. Throw it out, take it or whatever, but I don't want to argue with you. That wasn't my style. So that part was difficult for me.
That discussion happened during an interview with Jenny McCarthy, a former co-host of The View who was only on for one season. However, it was Candace's viewpoint that touched a nerve. What are some ways to maintain attention without creating drama? It appears that the solution is to make every section a spectacle, raising the stakes so high that it feels like every show is changing the national dialogue. The View was not intended for this, which is ironic. The show's original co-host, Debbie Matenopoulos, once characterized it as a multi-generational conversation in which your mother, grandmother, sister, and cousin talk about day-to-day activities. The topic of politics was hardly discussed. However, at some point, the formula changed. Candace even talked on how she had to mentally prepare for every program, not only to voice her opinions, but also to be ready for criticism, a daily televised. War had emerged from what started out as a chat forum.
What I want to know is, you knew you were going on The View, that you were going to be the token conservative.
Yeah.
How did you prepare for each and every episode?
Girl, I have never prepared like I have prepared for that show in my life, okay? So I would do hours and hours of homework every single night. You basically get a packet of about 80 topics the night before because they're all current events. They keep moving and changing, whatever happens in the news cycle. So I would spend probably a minimum of 4 hours each night researching all 80 topics so I could understand what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then on the morning of, with the hosts and the producers, they break it down. We go through all 80 topics and then pinpoint maybe 7 or 8 of those that we're actually going to discuss on this show.
And that's precisely why The View's commentary frequently seems so shallow. Although the presenters may wish to portray themselves as powerful political figures, the facts speak louder than they do in delving into the intricacies of policy or providing insightful analysis. The discussion tends to be driven more by emotion than substance, and it's all about the reaction, the viral moment, and the zinger that will trend on social media rather than the kind of insight that actually informs or challenges an audience. What we end up with are catchy sound bites and shallow takes that are more reminiscent of a hashtag battle than a genuine political discussion. Sure, that might work if your only goal is to entertain, but when you're framing yourself as a space for informed debate, that style falls flat and fast. The show does have some positive aspects, though, and Candace acknowledged one redeeming quality, and her comments may surprise you.
It was really challenging, but I did as much prep work as I could. Felt like I was in college or in high school or whatever. Yeah. And so when I knew the decided on topics, and politics is not my strong suit, or at least it wasn't then. I know a whole lot more about politics now, but I was really learning politics while I was doing that show because we just weren't a family that ever talked about politics at home. So I had a couple of very faithful friends in my life that committed to that 1 hour in the morning of my prep time, because that's about what you get. You get your makeup and hair time, and then but during your makeup and hair time, you have like about an hour and a half before you go on live TV.
Girl, I know this was the Lord that called you to this because this is so stressful.
Let's face it, despite the fact that this interpretation may upset some people, there are a lot of contradictory and eye-rolling moments. It's difficult to deny that The View brings real issues, elections, policy debates, and cultural flashpoints directly in front of an audience that might otherwise avoid them altogether. Sure, the depth isn't always there, and yes, the framing can be wildly skewed, but exposure is exposure even if some viewers leave with more questions than answers. After all, in a world where apathy is frequently louder than action, that alone counts for something.